Foster care adoption is not a financial question. It's a heart question. I say that because after you spend $0 to $2,500 on the process, get the federal adoption tax credit, and the children you adopted receive free healthcare until age 18, this really isn't a money question. It's a decision you make with your heart. Are you willing to help a child or sibling group heal and thrive? Are you willing to adjust your life to be a child's forever family? But more deeply, are you willing to deal with your own past wounds and hurts to become an adoptive parent? Hi there. My name is Marcy Bursack, and I am your personal foster care adoption mentor. I've been through this experience myself adopting a pair of siblings. My heart for the remaining 113,000 children who are still waiting to be adopted led me to use a stimulus payment to publish the Forgotten Adoption Option, a 70-page guide through this process, and then launch this podcast a month later. Then in 2022, I wrote a children's book called Are You a Forever Family? And I launched the Forgotten Adoption Option app, which spells out exactly what to expect if you plan to grow your family through foster care adoption. You can find all of these resources at forgottenadoptionoption.com. I am so delighted that you're tuning in, and I want to welcome you to be real. Real about your heart. Real about any questions that are running through your mind. In Season 3, monthly episodes will cover strategies for thriving as an adoptive family. You might also enjoy Season 1, where you can hear personal stories of adoptive parents and adopted children, and in Season 2 episodes where guests explain how to adopt U.S. children who are waiting for you in the foster care system. Whether you want to begin the adoption process right now or in the future, my heart is to help conquer the confusion and fears of the foster care adoption process so that fewer children continue to wait to be adopted. Welcome to the Forgotten Adoption Option podcast. In this episode, you will learn how to help adoptees thrive. Simon Benn resides in the United Kingdom and is the founder of Thriving Adoptees. He is an adoptee who helps other adoptees thrive. He also shows parents how to help their adopted children thrive too. Hey, Simon.
Hey, Marcy.
I love that everyone gets to hear your accent. I'm excited to have you on. I'm doing great. It's morning my time, but it's afternoon Simon's time. He says that the afternoon is great, and I should go that way. So hopefully everyone can benefit from the time zones there. Simon and I met through LinkedIn. I think he commented on one of my posts about foster care adoption, and flash forward, we've become friends. Something that you've probably already quickly noticed and you will feel throughout this entire interview is Simon's passion that shines through his communication. Simon was adopted and uses his personal experiences to empower and inspire others. So we're going to dive right in. Simon, can you first help listeners know a bit about your adoption story?
Sure. So I'm 56. I was adopted at 5 weeks old through an adoption agency in Liverpool. I've always heard of Liverpool, the home of the Beatles. My mum and dad are from Leeds, which is about 80 miles they're from Burnley, which is Lancashire, which is quite closer to Liverpool. But they lived and I grew up in Yorkshire, probably about 80 miles away from where I was adopted. My mum and dad also adopted a little sister, Penny. So she's not biological, from a different birth mother. And we had I had a good, and my sister as well, we had a good, loving family growing up. I don't remember any conscious kind of adoption trauma at all. I was well attached to the family, to my mum and dad, from some things I can remember saying to my sister. Yeah, so she said, she once said to me, do you ever think about finding your real mum and dad? I said, no, mum and dad are our real mum and dad. And I think that I would be maybe 10 or 12 at that. So I kind of hang on that. That's my only kind of one memory of it. They told me so young that I don't remember being told. I now know they told me when we were on the way to collect Penny when I was just before I was 2. So I didn't have any conscious adoptee trauma or anything like that until I hit 40, when I found out that that teddy bear that I had from birth, well, not from birth, but for as long as I can remember, was actually from my birth mother. And I thought that was a little bit weird that my mum and dad hadn't told me that. My mum now tells me that she did tell me that, but obviously I can't remember. So my first reaction was one of curiosity. Why didn't they tell me that she was from the birthmark? And then a couple of months later, I had a big kind of volcanic eruption of anger when these words came out of my mouth. She didn't love me? She, my birth mother, didn't love me enough to keep me and the teddy bear as a consolation prize. So that kind of the lady I was with, it was her mum, and she said, I don't think it was kind of quite like that, Simon. And with that, the volcano kind of stopped erupting. The anger ceased, but there was a little bit of white smoke coming out the top of the volcano, if you like. And my antennae were up. I thought, well, maybe adoption has messed me up. Because business success hadn't made me happy. After 15 years of working hard to get the family business going right, I'd had a good year and it hadn't made me happy. So my antennae were up. And so at 16 years on, I've been on that kind of self-discovery journey, or whatever you want to call it. So, on a bad day, I say it was a midlife crisis. On a good day, I say it was the start of the spiritual journey. And that eventually led me to where we are today, to this conversation today.
And there's so much more. I know you go a lot more in depth about this teddy bear and so much of that, but what's so beautiful that I hope listeners are able to glean from this conversation, especially, is Simon's like unpacking this, and he is doing that as a way, is offering resources and tools. And we'll get more into the things that he has in this space that could really be great and beneficial to your family. You also might be wondering, Marcy, I thought you only worked with foster care adoption in the US. Why are we talking to Simon in the UK? You're right. Simon's been adopted. And I think there's so much that we can benefit as parents. If you've been adopted, or maybe you age out of the foster care system, I feel like Simon has such great resource for you. So Simon, your parents told you were adopted. You mentioned like really young, on the way to go get your sister, and you don't remember not knowing. I'm curious, as a young, kind of before your 20s, did you tell friends, teachers, and others that you were adopted?
Kind of occasionally. Yeah, but it wasn't a big thing.
It wasn't something you were embarrassed of.
It wasn't something that I was embarrassed of. No. And nor was it something that I had a mega amount of pride in. I wasn't sort of, I'm special, I'm special, or, I'm special in a good way, or I'm special in a bad way. It was just life. There was no shame. There was no shame, and there was no kind of ego speciality, I don't think, really. There's a funny little incident happened once. We were on holiday and I was playing pool in a cafe, and there's a few dads there. My dad was there, and other lads playing, and this guy said to me, this who was obviously a dad, said to me, looked at me and said, "Oh, that's your dad over there." And I said, yeah, that's my dad. And I looked at him, and he said something like, "We looked alike," or something like that. And my dad kind of winked at me, and that was it, really. But
oh, that's cute. I get that. My daughter gets that a lot. "Oh, you look a lot like your mom." And we just look at each other and we laugh. We're like, okay, because we're not biologically related, but people mean well. So Simon, a specific situation. So I've actually coached a number of parents. This is like parents that have adopted through the foster care system. And one of their needs is how to actually tell their child they're adopted, because some have been with their child or children at such a young age that it doesn't have to be told, if you will, and they just didn't tell them. So oftentimes these children are usually elementary or middle school age students, and the parent just doesn't want to tell them, maybe because they're thinking the child might feel they weren't loved, or they don't want the details of their adoption story to sound embarrassing to them. And I'm curious, from your angle and from what you know and have lived through, I wonder what insights and encouragement you can share with our listeners who might be in a situation like this, where they know that their child's adopted, but they aren't exactly sure how to share the details and how to help them navigate a lifetime where their child has questions and is trying to make sense of their own adoption journey.
Just get on with it and tell them. If you're like, look, I would say this is the big thing, right? You said, so you used the word unpacking. One of my favorite episodes of the podcast is an interview with, obviously yours is the top one. Right.
Now, Simon's talking about his podcast called Thriving Adoptees. And yes, I went on his. So just so folks are like, where's that episode? So before Simon tells you, go to his podcast, Thriving Adoptees.
Okay. So my second favorite one with an adoptive mum is from a lady called Holly and Petrie down in Texas. And she runs an agency. She's got 9 kids, I think 6 from adoption. And she came up with her own title for the podcast, right? Which was Unpacking Our Own Baggage as Adopted Parents, right? So it's all about you, right? That's what Holly am. Like I'm an adoptee. I'm not an adopted parent. Me and my wife haven't even got any kids. So what qualifies me to say anything about how you should raise your kids? I'm going to defer to an expert like Holly Ann, and I'll say it's about unpacking your baggage, unpacking your own baggage. So if you're concerned about telling your kid, I'd look within about what's going on for you, because it is in any relationship, it's about us. Like, so for example, I can't influence, right? I've got far more influence over myself than my wife, right? I could try and, guide her in the right direction on stuff. And you can imagine what that's only gonna end in tears, right? So we have far more agency over ourselves than we do over anybody else, and we've got to look within. Leaders go first, yeah. Apart from in the First World War, obviously, when they sat at the back of the trenches and sent all the kids, sent all the 17-year-old kids to be mowed down by, I don't know why I'm talking about this, but yeah, leaders in this sense have to go first. So I would encourage you to look at within what's going on for you. What do you think is at stake? What do you think is at stake? Because it's about, is it about you not seeing yourself as a good enough parent? Is it about, is it the revisiting of some trauma from your own past? Is it something to do with the way that you were parented and, your parents weren't honest with you? I would look, you got to look within. And I would say that to everybody, right? I would say that to anybody. So whether that's somebody talking about their relationship with their kids, their relationship with their spouse, their relationship with their parents, their relationship with their grandparents, we have to go within. We've got more agency over us than we've got agency over our kids. And we've got to, if we want our kids to be courageous, we've got to be courageous first, because they do what we do, not what we say. And as wiser men than me, like Gandhi said, be the change that you want to see in the world. So,
and I think some people just turned off our episode. If that's you, if you're thinking to pause, I know this is hard work. I've had to go through my own therapy. And so I just want to encourage you, if what Simon just shared with you, you're thinking, yeah, I know someone, or that's me. Seeking professional help is a positive. It's good for you. It's good for your family. And then I also just want to offer, if that is you and you're thinking, okay, I'm ready to do it, I don't know how, I am happy to role play with you. I have done this with multiple families where I've pretended to be the kid and I've pretended to be the parent, and I've tried to give some language around this. Because it's really, sometimes we can just get stuck in our own overthinking of it. So know that we are trying to help liberate you and help you live as a healthy, thriving family. So Simon, leading into our next question, I'm curious, what do you see as the most common needs of adoptees, and how do you help them thrive?
Well, they need to see who they are, right? So and number one is that they're not their trauma, right? So there's loads of adult adoptees online who, especially in the Facebook groups, and they're dumping their trauma, right? They're dumping their trauma all upon each other. They're trauma bonding. They are getting lots of reinforcement about that, and they are unable to differentiate between who they are and the trauma that they feel. So we have to. So I learned that the tough way, right? I learned that the tough way. But luckily, like, so Marcy's a coach, right? So I've had far more coaching than I've had therapy. I've probably only had 5 therapy sessions in my life, I would say. I'm 56. I probably had, like, oh God, in terms of coaching, years of it, like, comparatively. Coaching helps us look forward, right? Coaching helps us look forward. And, so, the past, what people say, the past is a place of reference, not a place of residence. The adoptees, adult adoptees, I can see their pain online all the time, and even when I say to them, I come up with, like, great metaphors to help them see that they're not their trauma, they still fight back at me and tell me that they are.
So how do you help someone that maybe is wanting to hold on to that trauma? How do you help them let go or work through it and move forward?
Well, I just do the podcast, right? I just do the podcast and webinars. I don't do one-to-one work. Adoption support here in the UK is really highly regulated. So you can't be a therapist or a coach. The government doesn't make any distinction. I was thinking I was gonna coach adoptees, right? But
and now you just give them resources. So you coach them virtually,
I give them resources.
Yeah.
So we have to see who we are. We have to unpeel the layer of our own. Sorry, peel back the layers of our own onion to see who we are underneath the feelings that we think, underneath the thoughts that we think, underneath our trauma. Like, so I'm talking really here about consciousness, about awareness, about identity is a many multi-layered thing. I'm talking about the essence of us. So the French, there's a French guy says, we're not spiritual beings having a human experience. Sorry, we're not human beings having a spiritual experience. We're spiritual beings having a human experience. So that spirit, consciousness, awareness, the space in which all that stuff, all our thoughts and feelings appear, right? So I don't know whether that's making any sense.
I think it's helpful. Are there specific, like, if I'm an adoptee and I'm thinking, man, I really want to start unpacking this and working on me, are there a particular set, maybe 2 or 3 of your podcast episodes that you'd say these would be a great place to start?
Well, one of the ones that I just published, The Journey to the Universal Heart with Mariella Anderson.
So I wonder, kind of similar question, but different perspective. What can people do that are either thinking about adopting in the future, or maybe they already did, and they're trying to really help their kids thrive? I wonder what tools you have to offer, or where you'd point us.
We can't share what we don't have. We can't teach what we don't know. And we can't point at stuff that we haven't seen ourselves. So it's about our own seeing, our own seeing of the perfection of who we are underneath that's buried underneath all the thoughts and feelings and the trauma that we've been through in our life. So I believe the best people, adoptees, are very good at describing trauma, but we're not our trauma, right? Have you seen me doing this the clenched hand thing? Have I done that with you?
I don't think you have. So we're not going to get to see the video in the drop, but so Simon's making a fist with his hand that's clenched. So why don't you describe kind of the analogy here?
Okay. Yeah. So, and I can give you a link to this on the video, because obviously this works better. So my trauma manifested as anger towards my birth mother. She didn't love me. There's some swear words, right? But it's a family show, so we won't do that. She didn't love me enough to keep me. She gave me this consolation prize of this teddy bear, right? So my fist represents the anger. Okay. So and I'm white knuckling it. And I'm tight, and I'm not listening, and and I'm angry and I'm going to do damage in the world and I'm fully in my trauma, right? I'm fully in my trauma. But the natural shape of the hand is open. So as we unfurl these tightly clenched fingers, we reveal the diamond of who we are. So I've got a glass diamond hidden.
It's
in
very
my,
pretty. I don't
yeah.
get to see it. It's all sparkly and pretty big. It's like a couple inches, I would say.
Yeah. So you can have a look at this in there on the link. So what I'm saying here is I'm making a very clear distinction between who I am, who we all are, right? The diamond, and who we are. It's veiled by our trauma, or another way of saying it would be it's veiled by our ego, right? Our ego, our sense of self, which isn't actually who we are. So the clearer that you can see your own perfection as a parent, the more able the better you're gonna be able to be at pointing your kid at their essential perfection underneath the trauma that they have been through. So another way of looking at this is, I say that trauma is a toxic cocktail of insecurity, fear, and anger. But we're the glass, right? We're not the contents of the glass. So there's a separation that has to be seen at a fundamental level. So I'm more interested in understanding who we are than how I feel. So in my opinion, the best people at pointing us to the essence of who we are the people like Eckhart Tolle, Rupert Spira, Don Miguel Ruiz, the Dalai Lama, these sorts of people who are really clear, concise communicators and help us see who we are, because we're not our thoughts. They come and go. We're not our feelings. They come and go. They stick around a little bit longer. We are the space in which those thoughts arrive, and we're the space in which those feelings. So that's what I was saying.
Simon's speaking to us through, a very long lifetime of unpacking this and working through it. And as we close, I'm hoping you can share with us about Thriving Adoptees. And I have a website and a podcast. What other resources can you offer? How can people find you?
So yeah, the podcast, and I got a YouTube channel with some videos on as well. Podcast is for me, that's how I learn. I listen to audiobooks or I listen to podcasts because I can do that while I'm walking the dog or driving the car. I only read on holiday, and I'm not a particularly, if I'm watching telly, I want to watch a crime drama, or we're watching the early seasons of ER at the moment with George Clooney, where he made his name. So I don't really like watching videos myself, but it's each to their own, right? It's you've got to find the way to learn that fits in with your lifestyle and takes in and helps you take in the information that in the way that you want to take it in. So yeah.
So good. So this might be information, listeners, for you personally. I know many families that adopt, someone in the relationship is also adopted. So there's some great content for you. And there's also things to go and just better understand how to support your kids. So Simon, really appreciate you sharing your personal experience with us, letting us be aware of your resources. Thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thank you. And, I've had, as you say, Marcy, I've been looking at this stuff for 16 years. And the biggest thing that I think that we all need to see is that we're not our trauma. The kids aren't their trauma. That's the hope. We live in a world that is trauma obsessed, right? Everybody's instead of being trauma informed, we've become trauma obsessed. And I believe that we should be trauma informed and hope obsessed, or healing obsessed. We should be looking at how the healing happens. because no amount of study in the dark ever leads us to the light, right? We've got to look at the light.
Yeah. And even though it's hard to face our own trauma, it's often well more worth the life we get to live on the other side. As a listener of the Forgotten Adoption Option podcast, you are helping to raise awareness about foster care adoption and the 113,000 adoptable children in the United States. By leaving a review, subscribing, sharing, and talking about this podcast, you can help a child and sibling groups find their forever family. If you only have time to do one, sharing is the most impactful way to help a child who is waiting to be adopted. If you'd like more information on adopting a child or sibling group through the foster care system, please visit my website, ForgottenAdoptionOption.com. There you will find how to get started using my new and free Forgotten Adoption Option app, and you can even order a copy of my book for adults, The Forgotten Adoption Option, which guides you through the entire process, and you can find my book for children of all ages, Are You Forever Family? You can pick from paperback, audio, and ebook formats, and you might even be able to find my books at your local library. Please keep me in mind as you're thinking of gift ideas and guest speakers. If you have any question about the process or you're wondering if you're even qualified to adopt, please reach out. Please send your friends and family my way too. You can easily find me by searching for Marcy Bursack on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. I intentionally carve out time each week to encourage and teach people just like you. I really appreciate you tuning in, caring, and sharing, because every child deserves to be in their forever family.